Hey, go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to another enlightening episode of Al-Muminat Podcast. This is a space where we as believers come together to reflect on the wisdom of the Quran, share insights, and strengthen our connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whether you're joining us for the first time or are a regular listener, I pray that this session enriches your heart, mind, and soul. Today we will continue with SURAT Al BAQARAH, ayah number 257, and our speaker for the session is Sister Hanan. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us understanding and allow these reflections to guide us towards a better understanding of ourselves and our community. With that, I'll go ahead and switch it over to Sister Hanan.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. It's always amazing to be with you and to, mashallah, to have this gathering around the Quran. It's the best gathering ever. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inshallah, to grant us knowledge and to make this knowledge something that it will attest for us on Day of Judgment, not become against us, Ya Rabbil Alameen. I always ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inshallah, to guide my tongue and to guide your hearts to what's benefit you and me. Because when I prepare tafsir, when we talk about tafsir, sometimes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will open the hearts and minds, and He will guide the tongue to say things sometimes we did not prepare. We call it fath. So I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to have fath on all of us. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless your time. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inshallah benefit us of the knowledge. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. We're going to read inshallah Surah Ayah 257 of Surah Al Baqarah. And then inshallah we're going to read the translation and we're going to go over some thoughts around the verses. We're going to mention many scholars and how they interpret the verse, and what kind of insights, idea they brought in, and how they come together to agree on things and to disagree on things. And this is what's so beautiful about, mashallah, the scholars when they talk about the verses of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. Inshallah, let's start. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الله ولي الذين آمنوا يخرجهم من الظلمات إلى النور والذين كفروا أولياؤهم الطاغوت يخرجونهم من النور إلى الظلمات أولئك أصحاب النار هم فيها خالدون. اتفضلي ألا. We're going to go verse by verse inshallah.
Allah is the guardian of the believers. He brings them out of darkness and into light. As for the disbelievers, their guardians are false gods who lead them out of light and into darkness. It is they who will be the residents of the fire. They will be there forever.
Jazkallahkheir. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillah nahmadu wa nasta'inu wa nastaghfiru wa na'udhu billahi min shururi anfusina wa min sayyiati a'malina. Man yahdihillahu fala mudilla lahu wa man yudlil fala hadiya lahu. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lahu wa ashhadu anna sayyidina wa habibina Muhammad alayhi afdalis salatu wassalam abduhu wa rasuluhu. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this amazing verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about al-wilaya. Al-wilaya, and what does it mean, al-wali? What does it mean to have Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as your guardian? Ibn Kathir, when he started this verse, he said al-wali, it means the protector, the helper, and the guardian, and the close friend. When you go to the word the wali, the Arabic language of the wali, it comes from wala. Yani the roots of the word wali, it comes from the verb wala. Wala mean come together. Like if you are sitting around the table, the one next to you is called waliyaki. Yani it comes, this is the closest to you. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He talks about Allah wali, mean Allah is closest. He is the closest to His servant. He is the closest to them. And we're not talking about the closest mean in a spiritual sense. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Himself, when He said, Inni qareeb, it's not only spiritual. But look at how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He talks about qareeb ujibu da'wat ad-da'i, I'm really close. And the way Allah is close, we don't know how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is close, but it's not only in the spiritual sense. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hear the thoughts, hear the whispers. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is so close to the believer. So you see, this is the meaning of the wali. It means the protector, it means the helper, and it means the guardian. And every word and every meanings has its own, how can I say, function, has its own work to do. Yani, it's not like protector is the same as helper, is the same as guardian, is the same as friend, but every one of them has a role in the believer's life. And this is what's so amazing about the word al-wali. Also, they say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala called himself al-wali. And also, he named his servant al-wali also. So imagine the closest to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he is wali, the believer. And the believer, he is wali also to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to other believers. And we're going to talk about that, inshallah. So Ibn Kathir, when he mentioned Allah is al-wali, he means he takes charge of their affairs, takes charge of all their affairs, support them and guide them. So in the verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he mentioned Allahu wali alladhina amanu, those who believe. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he is their protector, he is their guardian, he is their helper, and he's so close to them. What Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say? What does he do? Subhanahu wa ta'ala, he said, يُخْرِجُهُم مِّنَ الظُّلُمَاتِ إِلَى النُّورِ. He brings them out of darkness into light. طيب, why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned darkness first? He brings them from the darkness into the light. Why darkness here is mentioned first? Because this is the initial state of every human being. You see, in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always mentioned the darkness before light, as if this is the initial state of every human being. This is his state of ignorance. So every human being begins with this darkness until he is guided and he is asked for guidance. So scholars, they do say, like Ibn Ashur, he said that a person is born without guidance, right? We are born without, we don't know anything. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned that in the Quran. خَلَقَكُمْ وَلَا تَعْلَمُونَ شَيْئًا. يعني you know nothing at all. And he guided you. So you see that this is the initial phase of the human being. And it doesn't matter the age, it doesn't matter the status, it doesn't matter even the level of academic level of a human being. A human being in that state of ignorance, when it comes to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when it comes to life, when it comes to the afterlife, when it comes to purpose, he will be in that state of ignorance regardless of the worldly knowledge he knows. Until, subhanallah, he asks to be guided, and he comes from this kind of darkness of ignorance, darkness of desires, of the doubt, of the confusion, and he asks for the guidance. And the guidance, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's not many, it's not layers, it's only one guidance, it's only one path. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he talks to darkness, like the scholars mention, he mentioned it in a plural sense because it refers to kufr, it refers to ignorance, it refers to sins, it refers to all form of misguidance. And when it comes to light, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always bring it into the singular form, because the path to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala huwa sirat, one sirat. Allah called it the Surat Al Mustaqim. And this is what, subhanallah, our beloved previous speaker talked about. It's only one sirat. It's only one way to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is the way of light, and this is the way of guidance, and this is the Surat al-Mustaqim, the straight path to him subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he mentioned that in the Hadith al-Qudsi. Remember that hadith when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, "O my servant, ya ibadi kullukum dal illa man hadaytu, fastahduni ahdikum." This is one part of a long hadith when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, "O my servant, all of you are misguided." There is no exception. All of you are misguided, except for those I have guided. So seek guidance of me, and I shall guide you. And look at that. And this is I remind you, if you didn't listen to the previous halaqa and dars, please listen to it, because you can see how that beautiful story of guidance, and that beautiful story, and the way Allah guided that person, the way guided Fatima in the story, he did not guide her until she really asked for guidance. It has to be this initiative. And in order for you to have this initiative, what did she had to go through? She had to go through the darkness. She had to go through the darkness of loneliness, maybe, of confusion, of the doubt, of the living life without purpose. She doesn't know. All of us, we go through that. Whether حتى sometimes Muslim, all of us, يعني, even guidance, it's a different level. It's not necessarily that I was born a Muslim that I am guided. I need to have the guidance to understand my deen. I need to have the guidance to be able to reach to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and ask him to be my wali. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, from that hadith we understand that this is true, that the initiation has to come from the servant. طيب, how about when we talk about يخرجهم من الظلمات إلى النور? We're going to talk about that. Also, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, why he start with the darkness before the light, and why he said يخرجهم من الظلمات إلى النور? Because that verse shows or highlight Allah's mercy. And Allah's mercy is something that is extremely active. Allah's mercy is not a passive thing. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy is extremely, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala al-wali, he is active with his servant. He works with his servant. So that verse shows his mercy and he shows his action. It's a verse that describes transformation. Imagine there is a movement. He's moving this person from a place to a place, from a state to another state. And it depends on the depth of where we are in that moment when we ask for guidance, how deep we are in the darkness, okay? And the magnitude of Allah's rescue. How Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when we say Allah takes them from the darkness in a plural sense into this light, those layers of darkness, of ignorance, of sins, of subhanallah, of these kind of belief that really drag a person into despair, drag a person in doing things that is against his nature, against his fitrah. All of that is accumulated inside this human being. And either this person will ask for guidance and will get out of those darkness, or how he's going to live his life. Sometimes it ends up to be what? That this person ends his life. So it is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it shows the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the rescue, how Allah rescued that person from this mental destruction. Imagine Shaitan la'natullah alayhi, when he uses the life and uses desires to take that person into darkness and layers of darkness. Imagine the mental destruction. It's such an exhausting mental destruction to go through this kind of doubt and loneliness and despair. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shows how he rescued that person to focus on one direction. You have only one purpose, one direction, one way to go. And this is, yani, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it has this kind of mercy. And anyone that went through that journey from the darkness and the level of darknesses and the layers of darkness into the light, they will tell you how lost they were. Jeffrey Langs, and when he talks about how he was an atheist, and he was talking about he lived his life and he didn't care, and he didn't really pursue hatta knowledge of God at that time, and how when he finished his doctoral degree, it was the worst day of his life. Yani he lived for a purpose to get his doctoral degree, and when he's done with his doctoral degree, he said it was the worst thing of my life. Why? Because now I have no purpose to live for. And he said that he had a friend, he had Muslim friends, and when he used to go to their gathering, he used to feel jealous. Even though he doesn't believe in God, but he felt jealous of those people who have a purpose in life, who are connected to something higher, something bigger than themselves. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala he mentioned that he did not even guide this person. الله ولي الذين آمنوا يخرجهم من الظلمات إلى النور. So he is their wali and he's their protector, and this guardianship means what? That he's going to take them from that place, from the darkness into the light, and in this life and in the next life. Sayyid Qutb, he we know all Sayyid Qutb, mashallah, he has this book of Quran translation, the Tafseer of the Quran, في ظلال القرآن. He talks about the wilaya of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What does it mean, the wilaya? What does it mean, the ultimate guardianship of Rabbil Alameen? That he said that this is a very exclusive relationship. It's a very exclusive relationship. It implied that he takes full charge of the affair of his believer, guide them and support them. And he mentioned that this is the active process of guidance, that this guardianship is not passive like we mentioned, but it's extremely actively bringing them, subhanallah, from one place to another, from one state to another. And this is what we call the process of purification. So this movement from the darkness into the light, this is what we call the process of purification and knowledge. And it's not only one time. You see, it's a lifetime commitment from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and from the wali himself. خلاص? So we're gonna talk about that later on. And what does it imply for me as a wali? And how can I connect that to the previous verse when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned La ikraha fi din? Why it's important to have no compulsion in Islam? And why it's so important to talk about this rope that you are holding tight into it? But you can see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about this process, that it will continue, and it's a journey between the wali and his servant, subhanallah. And the rest of the ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned وَالَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا أَوْلِيَاؤُهُمُ الطَّاغُوتِ. He's giving you this opposite. Those who disbelieve, their allies are the taghut. They are taking them from the light into darkness. They are the companions of the fire, and they will abide eternally therein. So you see, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, those who don't take Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for a wali, don't take Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for their guardian and their patron and their friends, who's they going to take for as a guardian, as a protector? He said they will take what? At-taghut. Ibn Abbas, when he mentioned at-taghut in Islam, the language of taghut and the roots of the taghut came from the verb tagha. And tagha mean what? Tagha mean excessiveness in transgression. So when a person really transgress, and then he is excessive in transgression, there is no boundaries in evil that he does. And that's why Ibn Abbas, he mentioned that at-taghut is Satan, because this is the description that describes Satan. And Satan described that he will do everything and anything to mislead human being, even to get them out of the fitrah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this innate goodness. When we call the fitrah, we call that the innate goodness that inside the human being. Also, the innate balance that can give a sense of a person, give this sense that it doesn't feel good. You know, when you feel unbalanced, when you feel like something between the heart and the mind, it doesn't settle together. And this is the balance that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created in human being. And this balance, when we do something wrong, we call the fitrah. The fitrah will give you this kind of warning that there's something wrong. So what shaitan will do is trying to take a person out of that nature, out of this innate goodness inside of him, and into darkness, with the darkness of shirk and the darkness of misguidance. So Imam Mujahid, he said, at-taghut is any entity that exceeds its proper bounds, worshipped or followed in disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So anything, a taghut is anything that can mislead human being, anything that can mislead human being into doing wrong and disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and of course of shirk and misguidance. Imam Sayyid Qutb, he said, these false allies, and he doesn't consider it the shaitan only, but he considered everyone that you take as an allies. it leads people into the opposite direction. Here we have to explore. Imam al-Tabari, he explored the word يخرجونهم من النور إلى الظلمات. Those who والذين كفروا, those who disbelieve, أولياؤهم الشيطان, أولياؤهم الطاغوت, يعني people who take them, or shaitan who take them from where? From light into darkness. So here the scholars, they mentioned, طيب, what does it mean? Does it mean that they were inside the light and they went out of darkness? يعني like some of the scholars, when they mentioned that this is the reverse movement, that they were inside the dark, the light, and they were shown the light, and then they decide to revert, for instance, or go back on their faith. Does it mean that they were exposed to the light? They were exposed to guidance around them, but they don't search for it. They didn't search for it. They didn't want it. What does it mean? Some like Ibn al-Qayyim al-Jawziyah, for instance, he mentioned about the person when he is presented with the truth, when he is presented with the guidance, and when he presented with La ilaha illallah, he find himself standing in front of a steep mountain, very steep, very I'm not going to say dangerous mountain, but it's a hard one. It's something that require difficult. It requires effort to climb this mountain. It requires sacrifice to climb this mountain. And this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say in Surah Al Balad, when he say, فَلَقْتَحَمَ الْعَقَبَةَ وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا الْعَقَبَةَ. In Surah Al Balad, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he talks about those people who will end up, وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ, in the fire, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save us from, he will say those people did not even took that initiative to climb this steep mountain, this path. They did not even attempt to cross that path. Khalas, why? Because they felt like they don't want to sacrifice. They don't, oh, this is not for me. Even there are people say, I'm a Muslim, but I'm not practicing Muslim. And we're going to talk about that. I'm a Muslim, but I'm not practicing Muslim. So they felt like, well, this thing about following and praying 5 times a day and right and wrong and haram and halal, this is not for me. Okay? And thank God, يعني احمدي ربنا, يعني thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that I'm a Muslim aslan. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about them in the Quran. He said, wouldn't they just try to attempt to that steep path, to cross that steep path? Why when we look at something that Islam from outside, without considering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as my wali, it's hard. It's hard. Islam, and we're going to talk about that too. When you go to the previous verse, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talk about لا إكراه في الدين قد تبين الرشد من الغي. يعني there is no coercion in Islam, and mashallah, the previous speaker, she spoke beautifully about it. There is no coercion in Islam. Why there is no coercion in Islam? Because to enter Islam is something that requires sacrifice. It's something that requires hard work, effort, sincerity. Okay? So the people who are sincere, and look at the verse when they say, when the previous verse, when it said لا إكراه في الدين. لا إكراه في الدين. It's directing to whom? To Muslim or non-Muslim? To non-Muslim. لا إكراه في الدين, يعني there is no coercion in Islam. You come to Islam, you have to come to Islam willingly, and we're going to talk about it why. But as a Muslim, there is no such thing as لا إكراه في الدين. Sheikh Sharawi said there is no such thing as a person who say there is no coercion in Islam, so I'm not going to wear my hijab. There is no coercion in Islam, so I'm going to date. There's no. Once you become a Muslim, you have rules to follow. There is no that level of freedom that to choose or not. It's not for a Muslim. A Muslim, once I become a Muslim, then I am required to follow laws and rules. If I don't follow rules and laws, if we see people, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save our children, who goes and drink or goes and take drugs or goes and subhanallah dates or all of that, there is no such thing as you say, Ya Rabbi, you said no coercion in Islam. No, you're going to follow the required consequences for that. So the scholar, they say, لا إكراه في الدين is before you enter Islam. Once you enter Islam, you become an icon for Islam. You become an example of Muslim. Your behavior will affect Muslims around you. And this is what my children used to tell me. Okay, show me a person who is really, truly following what you're telling me. يعني, it's really sad. It's really sad because why? Because sometimes حتى وإحنا we talk about it as if يعني we don't even cover mistakes, we don't even cover sin. لا, openly on Facebook we take off scarves. Openly, a person who has this beautiful image of her wearing the scarf, she will have a beautiful image wearing the makeup and dressing, or maybe dancing, or maybe drinking, or maybe having يعني, you know what I mean? When you do that, what's happening? Can I say no coercion in Islam? No, they say, the scholars, they say this does not apply to Muslim because you do affect others. And that's why the Prophet ﷺ, when Sayyidina Umar ibn Khattab went to him and he said, Ya Rasulullah, I saw that person commit zina. I saw them, they were committing zina. What the Prophet ﷺ told him? He said, Ya Umar, if you would have covered them, it would have been better for you. The Prophet ﷺ encouraged people to cover their sins. Don't talk openly about your sin. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if you are tested with something and you cannot hold on to it, don't openly announce it to defend yourself. Because in Islam, there is no such thing as defending sins and mistakes. We don't. In Islam, when I make a sin, I ask forgiveness. Khalas. And when I make a sin between me and Allah, there is a huge opportunity that Allah will forgive it for me. But when I make a sin openly and in a way, whether I encourage it openly for others, what's the big deal about that? Or I encourage it even without paying attention to it, there will be consequences. On Day of Judgment, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say, those will come carrying their sin and the sins of people that they misled in life. It's something huge responsibility when you are a Muslim, and this is something maybe we need to revisit. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, beautiful in that verse that was explained last time, those who come to Islam, لا إكراه في الدين, لا إكراه في الدين قد تبين الرشد من الغي فمن يكفر بالطاغوت. يعني whoever disbelieve in everything that can mislead people, of every darkness, any layer of darkness, any subhanallah thing that against Allah's path and light, he describes something beautiful. He said, فقد استمسك بالعروة الوثقى. And it's so amazing that Ibn al-Qayyim talks about that. He said, استمسك. And Sheikh Sharawi mentioned when he talks استمسك, look at how hard that word is. استمسك mean hold firm, hold tight. But it doesn't mean only hold, even hold firm or hold tight. استمسك had this note or notation, has this implication of struggle. Your hold with struggle. And they say al-urwa, Sheikh al-Sha'rawi, he mentioned, al-urwa in the language of Arab was this rope, a very firm rope that they used to put it around the bucket to get water from a deep, deep well. So they needed this kind of rope was really was done firmly with a good fabric in order to hold this bucket tightly, won't let go of it, so they can have water. And water was the mean for survival. You cannot survive without water. You cannot nourish anything without water. You cannot, it's a means of survival, physical survival. And as if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants the Arab, which is the language of the Arab, and meaning that how the Arab understood their language, to compare between this urwatul wuthqa, this hold tight to this deen, as if you're holding exactly the same way you're holding tight to this rope that you have to bring a bucket of water with. Because as the water is your means of survival, this rope of guidance is the mean for spiritual survival. You cannot survive spiritually without it. خلاص. And sometimes even physically you cannot survive, because the despair and anxiety and depression, now we know the amount of disease it brings to a human being, mentally and physically and everything. خلاص. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling them that. And because that level of struggle is stamsaka, because it's hard, what's going to happen? Ibn al-Qayyim said, and Sheikh Sharawi said, then the natural sequence of the verses, and this is the connection between verse 257 and 256, this is the sequence, the natural sequence, which is Allah will be your wali. Allah say, لا انفصام لها, يعني Allah will never let it go. Allah will never separate you from the guidance. He will continue to send you guidance. He will continue this movement from layers of darkness to the layers of light. Because when a person is going through the darkness, and how deep he was in that darkness, how belief system is really shaping his subconscious mind. The empty nafsik, when you see a person, for instance, who used to drink or used to smoke or used to watch TV day in and day out, okay, these habits, it's really, really deep in. You cannot get them out. يعني, even when you go into guidance, you cannot get them out. The habits of ignorance, we cannot get them out. So what do? We try to build new habits. We try to build new knowledge. We try to see how can we also be wali of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What does it take انك انت تستمسك? What does it take to hold tight to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to hold tight to that? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will continue. This is His promise of guidance. So He's promised that He's not going to guide you only to go to the straight path, but to guide you and to help you to go along the straight path. Because eventually, if you're not paying attention, eventually these habits will be triggered again. You'll see, if you're not maintaining, these habits will come out again. If you are not, subhanallah, Allah subhanahu, if you are not tested and you go through these kind of tests to elevate you and to remind you and to break you a little bit, to go back. So you see, everything makes sense when it comes to the wali. Everything in my life, when I was reading the translation of the scholars, it made sense why we go through the test. Why we go through the ups and downs, why we go through the emotions, why we have to cry to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when we make mistakes. So, subhanallah, so we can go back to say, oh my God, I made mistakes. Oh my God, this was the consequences of my action. Oh my God, please, Ya Rabbi, take me out of that or save me from that. So it's not easy. And because it's not easy, you can see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is here in that verse, and the ulama stopped by يُخْرِجُونَهُمْ, that those disbelievers, those taghut, whoever is the shaitan, whoever is also following the shaitan and doing the actions of shaitan, misleading the believers, those they will try their best to move people away from the light and make it hard for them to follow, or they will reverse the movement. The people who went already into the truth, they will try to move them around. They will try to get them out. So you see, Sayyid Qutb, he mentioned that the power of evil is very dynamic. It's very active. It's an ongoing struggle between the forces of light and the forces of darkness. You're not gonna feel. This is the journey that we are in. This is the life that we are in. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, "We khalaqna al-insana fi kabad," this is the kabad. This is the hard test, because we are all the time pulled between the good and the bad, between the haram and the halal, between the light and the darkness. Subhanallah. And the disaster is, in my opinion, that the forces of evil, they are not shy to raise their banners and tell you, come on. They have this flashing light all over the place, and they are funded. They are funded with time and money and efforts. And we see now plans that were put on paper as documents 80 years back. Now we see it manifested in communities, and we see it manifested in societies and nations. And those plans how to fight Islam in their core. He said you cannot fight Islam with weapon. They discovered that 80 years ago, 100 years ago, when they wanted to fight Islam, they said we cannot fight it with war. Every place that they went in, Muslim fought them and got them out. But in order to fight Islam, they need to go inside what? The first cell, the family itself. They need this generation to what? To belittle, to belittle this deen, not to understand it. They started with the ignorance, and they started with everything, the family, then the school and the education and the society, and they dumped societies with videos and with distractions and all of that, in order for what? For the believers to move from lights into the darkness. And this is, subhanallah, this is extremely dangerous. So you can see the verse, what the scholar they do say, how they actively extract people from the remaining of their goodness. And they say through something called nihilism. And nihilism, I never heard of something called nihilism. And they said nihilism now is the belief that life has no real meaning, purpose, or values. And it's often, this kind of ideas is often lead to the idea that nothing really matter, no morals, no truth, and no higher purpose. And you see how they did that by belittling the shuyukh, and belittling the scholars, and belittling the teachers. And they say, oh, this person is wrong and that person is wrong. Look what he did, look what he said. It doesn't make any sense. And they did succeed. They did succeed. So many young men and young women, so many, they believe that life has no purpose. We were created kida in vain to be here. Also, they say through something called libertine ethics, which is a mindset that rejects moral boundaries, especially in behavior and lifestyle. It promotes, like we said, it promotes whatever you feel good, do it, just do it. They put it on T-shirts, they put it on banners, they put it on TV, and look how they, subhanallah, they studied how human being can retain information through simple words that is repeated. When you hear, we were talking the other day about the gift of hearing, and how much we don't pay attention to the gift of hearing. Even though Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Quran itself and the revelation was meant to be listened to. During the time of the Prophet ﷺ, very few they will know how to read or write. But it was meant to be listened to. And the Prophet ﷺ, everywhere he went, he said, just listen to me. Listen to me. Listen, because listening, it is the fastest gateway to the hearts. It either it corrupted the heart, or subhanallah, it bring virtue, and it bring clarity to the heart. Listening is extremely important, and it's very dangerous, because we can close our eyelid, but we cannot close our ears. It's very, very hard to close your ears. So it's very, very tough.
And then,
Also, they say, what? Yes.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to give a comment on the ayah where it says, he brings them out of darkness and into light. That is so profound for converts. That is so profound. I'm gonna tell you why. It's this ayah resonates very dearly to converts, because yes, Allah, He guides who He wants and who He doesn't, and sometimes miraculously, just heka, without not them being in darkness, I want to say, but they are in darkness in some kind of way.
And everyone that is far away from Allah.
Yeah, and everybody that's far away from Allah, because they don't see that they are in darkness. And this is why I'm saying that this is so profound, because when I see certain people coming to Islam, majority, I don't want to say the whole 100%. No, I don't want to say that. But the majority, when you hear their stories, is because they were at the rock bottom
Exactly.
of their life. And that is darkness.
Yeah.
So that's just so profound. And like you said, yes, even people that have Islam, but they're not, like you said, not following and they're lost, they really don't know that they are, but because they think they're not, but that is darkness too. So I just wanted to add to that.
Wallahi, I just want to tell you, because I was one of them. I was one of them. I was born in Islam and Muslim family in a Muslim country, but I was lost. And even though you believe that they don't know, they are lost, no, they know. Because their fitrah, your innate goodness, the balance that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created you with, you will always feel like you are imbalanced, that there's something missing. You will always feel like, I don't know what's wrong with me. There will be something. And the distraction, yes, it can be distraction, and we can be distracted, whether by working, by going to college, by subhanallah, education, working, marrying, whatever. But at certain time, you feel, what did I do with my life? You will come to that conclusion. And so, like my son, always, when he was talking to my younger son, and my younger son is fooling around while he's talking, and whatever he's doing, my older son say, listen, it's just a matter of time. But eventually you will reach that conclusion that oh my God, what do I do with my life? What did I do with my life? What do I want to do with my life? And this is what people will ask and will question. But it depends on how much you're willing to put the effort, how much you are willing to be sincere. Because like I said, istamsaka, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he right then and there, he's telling you that will be something tough to hold. Like exactly when you have this rope, and is this rope, as long as you hold tight on it, it will be able to carry for you the water. And there is a promise from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is what the scholar, they do say, the sequence of the verses, the connection between verse 257 and 256 is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling you, you do your share and do your part, and I will be your wali. I will be your guard. I will make sure you're going out from the darkness into the light. And one thing that is subhanallah, that is, they were saying here, that one of the misleading information and the misconception that people think that when you become a religious, or when we go to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or when you do what's right, whatever it is that you feel like you do, oh my God, mashallah, her face is mashallah, is noor, mashallah, you see the peace, mashallah, you see. And this is, it's not true. It's not like, oh, you will be, there will be time when you are in turmoil. There will be time when you are tested and flipped around. There will be time that, oh my God, I thought that I reached that level, but I didn't reach that level. Let Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make you go. So it's not like you're going to have it easy. And this is a promise from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You're not going to have it easy, but I'm telling you what, I'm going to be there with you. And I'm not going to let you go. And this is a strong, firm hold. This is trustworthiness, trustworthy rope. It's not going to let you go. It's not going to separate from you and from the guidance once you are hold on to it. But see, this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and this is why the scholars, and they do say, خلي بالك, when he said يخرجهم من الظلمات إلى النور, he said that there will be maybe people already they are, that there is a possibility, not because you are a Muslim, not because you are in this light, then there is no possibility of being going out. No, it's telling that there is a possibility. Even religious people can be drifted. Even religious people with value can be drifted, can be pulled by some of the Ibn Ashur, he said, by the modern taghut. There is modern taghut. The shaitan now is not the shaitan that we thought about 1,000 years ago during the time of the Prophet. Shaitan now has many forms. All the influencers that promote those kind of ideas, whether the ethics, the moral ethics, whether promoting this, what they call it, even there's something called the prosperity gospel, which is this idea that as long as you are in faith, as long as you have faith, then automatically it will lead to success and wealth. How many, even us as Muslim now, we're getting into these Western, and I subhanAllah, I admit I was fooled by it for a period of time. This idea that you are attracted to wealth. Just focus hard. The power of attraction, just focus hard, the power of energy, the power of this month is the month of richness, this month is the month of poverty, and people are hooked by that. Muslims are hooked by that, and they go and they take classes of energy and how the energy and the nature can give you what you want, and totally it's misleading information to do what? to get God out of the picture. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves you, بقى هيعمل إيه? What he's gonna do? You will never, every time you're going into this attraction and you want wealth, you will never get wealthy. Every time you are focused on something you want, you're not gonna get it. And you say, Ya Rabbi, why? I'm doing all the right thing. I pray on time. I give even charity. I this and that. But look at the core of shirk. It's deep down that you believe if I focus hard and I put my energy out in the nature, I'm telling you, her nature give me wealth. Nature will come and give you wealth. This is shirk. And it's done very subtle, in a very subtle way. And it's done in a very appealing way. And this is a taghut. Look at the disaster that we are in. The comfort, live in a comfort life. You don't have to work hard. Subhanallah, reducing this religion into material gain rather than spiritual goal. Because you like I told you, because you are, mashallah, now you are Muslim, that means that you're going to have the magic wand, and that means that you're going to have it easy, and that means khalas, until you are done. No. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say you have a lot of layers of darknesses inside of you. And those layers will be triggered again. If you are not working so hard to develop weapons against them. So if I'm not maintaining them, it will be a disaster. That's why they say wilayah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala require, if you want to wilayah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that must be that you want to be a wali also to Allah. And what does it mean? It said it require that we be intentionally, we want that. I want Ya Rabbi to be waliya. Take me as your wali also. Take me as a wali. I want you to be my wali and take me as a wali. One of the wali of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that require what? Deliberate action, prayers, remembrance, dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. To avoid the taghut sources, whether it is digital taghut, YouTube channel, podcast, all these outlets that can normalize shirk or can drift you from, during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, when Sayyidina Umar ibn Khattab, he saw him in the street carrying suhuf Yahud, these papers, suhuf from Jewish tribes. He used to go and learn from them. He said, Ya Umar, yani, I am between you and you are going and to learn other religion. Why are you going to learn other religion? I was giving also this kind of series, yani, course, and there is a young man who's telling me, we were talking about something I forgot, and he's telling me, you know, I was encouraged to really hear those kind of podcasts, how to answer the Christian, how to answer those when they tell you 1, 2, 3, how to answer the Christian, how to answer the Jewish. I'm telling him, and is this your profession? Or is this going to take it? And I know it's just for information. So when I am between people, when I'm going to my college, I know how to answer them. I said, don't do that. In my opinion, I said, don't do that. Don't go deep into this kind of knowledge. And don't go and subhanallah, and argue with people of the book, people who wants to prove to you that your religion is wrong or right. It's, if you find yourself doing that, then subhanallah, send them to someone who this is his profession. But you don't have enough knowledge about your own religion. How can you want to explore other religion when you are not strong in your faith aslan? You don't have all the strong faith of the strong creed in your religion. So look at this, how they trick people into, subhanallah, explore other ideas or going into distraction instead of focusing on our deen, focusing on tafsir. Let me go and attend some classes, organized classes, and to learn about my faith. Then later on, if I'm decided to do that, it will be a different story. But for the time being, I need to be strong in my faith. Also, it needs what? It needs to surround ourselves with righteous company. I need to surround myself with community of dhikr, community of knowledge, community of sincerity, instead of surrounding myself with people talking about different ideas, different issues that can mislead me. Another thing, to be a wali of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we need to be active when it comes to our deen. يعني when you see the verb يخرجونهم is in the present tense. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala يخرجهم. This is a فعل مضارع. It's in present tense. Mean that all the time Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going through purification process for you. يعني beside all the habits that Allah's putting there, from praying 5 times a day, praying sunnah, praying fasting once a month, all these are regular subhanallah task and regular system. But also Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, every time you go and you do something that will give you and put you in darkness, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala take you out of this darkness somehow, some way, in a way that Allah only knows how you can handle that. And that's why I'm talking back about the test. When you read that, you say, Alhamdulillah for the test. Alhamdulillah, I know it's hard and I know it's tough, but I know Allah is my wali. If you believe that Allah is your wali and your protector, then Allah is reminding you every morning. He's telling you between askar, رضيت بالله ربا وبالإسلام دينا وبمحمد صلى الله عليه وسلم نبيا ورسولا. Always say, I am pleased with what Allah decreed for me. And Allah is the closest to you. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you have to trust Him. All those meanings and those big words that we need to understand and comprehend doesn't come except through experience. And experience doesn't come except through test. And this is what يخرجونهم. Allah يخرجهم من الظلمات إلى النور. And you'll find people who wants to take you away. And through ignorance. Wallahi, we have so much ignorance. When people, مثلا, somebody is going through test and hardship, they tell you, maybe because of your, I don't know what you're doing, I don't know what you did, I don't know. We look at it as a punishment. It's not. Listen to that verse and going through the tafsir, it makes you understand it has nothing to do with the punishment. It has to do with the beautiful purification process, divine purification process. Human being, Allah is giving him a template to purify themselves. They tell them, go and purify yourself. Go through test, go through salah and zakah and whatever. But also Allah has a kind of system, a hidden system. We call it the divine purification process, which is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how He makes you understand, how He takes you from A to B. And also we need to be active when it comes to spread the hope and the warning side by side. Sisters, we cannot afford to be passive when it comes to our deen. Rasul he said, make sure to always do this kind of hijrah. Do this kind of hijrah. When Salama, she asked him, Ya Rasulullah, what is the best? He said the hijrah from sins into the hijrah from sin is the best of hijrah. You spread, you try. Yani, if you have a huge force of evil, we have to try to be the force of good. This is what we are here for. This is what you give the pledge for. When we say Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, as if you're giving this pledge to spread goodness, to be a force of goodness. And this is something that is huge in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to be a force of goodness. And this is, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you your wilayah. And I don't wanna continue like that.
Yeah, Hanan, we're gonna have to stop it there because we only have like 4 minutes, but that was so beautiful. And yes, I do agree with you. Just really quickly, I do agree with you. Do not look into other religions unless you're really strong with yours. I feel like other religions would be with somebody that's seeking the truth. We already know we have the truth. But if you're seeking the truth and you're not a Muslim, yes, I do believe you should look into other religions so you could see the truth. After that, this won't bring doubts, especially for the young youth. So I do agree with Hanan on that. And for somebody that's really strong in Islam, yes, I feel like it's a duty upon everyone to give the message of Islam, and it says it very clearly for us. You're not the one that guides, but you are supposed to give the message. So I really appreciate that, Hanan, what you said, because that is something that we need to look into. We would like to hit onto that a little bit stronger, inshallah, with the next podcast. But because we only have 3 minutes, we need to wrap it up.
Jazkallahkheir. سبحانك اللهم ربنا وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. You can wrap it up. Allah يجزيكي خير.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so that wraps up today's episode. We hope you found it beneficial and enjoyed tuning in. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, please feel free to comment on the live, or you can email us at Al-Muminat Podcast@gmail.com. And don't forget to continue sharing the podcast with others. A special thanks to Sister Hanan for hosting today. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you. And thanks to everyone for listening. We look forward to having you with us in our next episode, inshallah. Until then, take care and stay tuned. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.